Hello there, Seraphim17 once again. This is my Dead Space 2, Zealot difficulty, no upgrades, no damage, no items, and no shop run. This is the 13th chapter, and this is a pretty tricky one. So if you remember on the Ishimura chapter, I became conscious of my ammo count, and it ended up dictating how I played the next section of the game. This is the second moment of this run where that's going to happen, and I tried a decent amount to not let this happen because I really like the fight that's coming up. It's probably my favourite fight in the game because it has such a strange assortment of enemies and there's so many resources that it's actually really fair and really fun. As I wander around kind of lost at this moment because I'm almost certain that you go through these doorways and it turns out I believe I'm on the wrong side of this. So just ignore me here, folks, as I wander and potter around. So what I'm going to do instead is, because there is quite a lot of enemies, there's a technique here that you can use where you block the spawns, and you can't block the right-hand spawn. The right-hand spawn is nigh unblockable due to the black slasher who's really good at busting through barricades. You can slow them down and you can kind of trap them, but conventionally that one just doesn't work the same. However, the left-hand side one works wonders. You can 100% stop the entire spawn if you stack it correctly. And instead of being ambitious and trying to block both of them, even though you can to some extent and see a lot of success, I'm going to block one of them and fight the other one. Because in that way, I feel like I'm kind of doing the fight, but I'm also saving ammunition because I'm not doing the full fight, which is a decent compromise. This is the random spawn as well, guys, that I mentioned earlier in the run, where that can be a black slasher if it isn't the exploder. And the idea of this particular fight coming up is that there's going to be a lot of different types of necromorphs, and then you're going to be assailed by lurkers that come out of the drill machine somehow. They must have followed us from the previous chapter. And you come across some black ones as well, which are the stronger versions of the lurkers, and they're actually a big dick. Not a fan of those enemies at all, and they're going to make it difficult. If this section was just about you opening a door, it'd be fine, but you have to do a hack. And while you're doing the hack, because the hacks are random and there's no way to predict it, you can get hit by lurkers, who I would like a lot more if they could not whip attack you from a distance unless they're on camera. If that was the case, you would be able to skip most of this fight coming up and not even have to do it, because you'd just stasis them, block them in, and then you'd just be able to hack it. But as it stands, they will attack you while you're doing it, and they show no mercy at all. They've been designed to do that to stop people from getting ahead of it. And all I'm doing here, guys, is I'm stopping that spawn by reinforcing it as best I can, and then I'm going to pick up this stasis module for the beginning of the fight to come, and we're going to start it. So the moment you walk out here, it begins. It's going to start with an exploder and a black slasher, who I'm going to get rid of using his explosive, and then you'll see the first of the lurkers spawn, and he always jumps on that wall. So if you can grab the lurker, the black slasher's slasher, you can kill the lurker with his weapon. But that means that you have to wait for the exploder to come out of the hole and run the risk of not hitting the black slasher. And that's one of the mistakes that I made there, so I couldn't kill the lurker as quickly as I wanted to, because let's face it, they're a pain in the dick. And now that I've done that, I start accessing this, and I hear the other lurker spawn, and he immediately starts doing what they like to do, which is giving me a rough time. So I get off the machine after pulling off the panel, and then I proceed to shoot him when I should be using limbs to fire them back. And at this point, the only spawns now are going to be additional lurkers. But the additional lurkers are the more powerful ones, and they're a nightmare because they take an incredible amount of punishment. So there's a bunch of ammunition I don't have. And if he'd have turned up earlier, I could have used him to kill that lurker, and that would have been fantastic. And here comes another one. So that's exactly what I'm going to try and do. That is the best way to deal with almost anything. Use the puker, cast it back, maximum profit. And now I've given a little bit of an opening, although you can hear some nasty, nefarious things at the side of me. And they are throwing sound to make them sound closer than they are, and boom, you see that? That was me barely ducking a potential reset, and then we can push onwards and get to the next section. So, all in all, that is a tricky fight. It's much more fun when you take them all on, but at this moment in time, I have 12 shots, so it's just not realistic. And it is a weird dichotomy, that this idea of wanting to do a challenge run and overcome the odds, and then doing something to avoid overcoming the odds. It's oddly contradictory, and it can leave you feeling a bit weird about it. And it's one of those things where if only it were different, right? If only I could have done every fight. And I could have done them. Like, I could have recorded them, wasted all my ammunition, and then uploaded them as separate videos, and that would have been fine. But in a run such as this, I feel like the consequences of your performance have to be felt in the next fight. I think, like, some of the skill of doing this is being able to moderate those encounters. And there's a few runs similar to this that's on YouTube, but they're all done by speedrunners that are amazing at running past the rooms. And as ironic as this statement is going to be, because I'm about to run past another fight that I just did not have the ammo to compensate for, because there's loads outside this door, freeze them and immediately run past them. And if you get the foreskins on you, get them off, because nobody wants a foreskin on them. Especially if it's not theirs. Run into this room, and then this room is pretty much a safe room. But speedrunning past the encounters is skillful and amazing, and it's what those other runs have done, and they're very impressive. But for me, like, what's the point in running past the challenge, right? It's almost at odds with why I do these things. And at some part there is a necessary evil of it, but there's also that strange understanding that if I don't run past this section, I don't think I can finish this run. And the idea of that is quite intimidating, but at the same time it's disappointing because you're having such a fun time. And I don't know if you can do like chapter select and select a chapter and it refills your ammunition, because that could have been a way around it maybe. Or perhaps something along the lines of using the trainer and stuff, even though it stops you from reloading. Because a terrifying instance of using the trainer to test the final boss, when I came back on my save, I had 99 rounds in my plasma cutter, and I was worried because I didn't have the trainer on, the cheat engine on, sorry. So there was a wonderful moment of being like, have I ruined my save now? Am I going to be fucked? And I have been safety saving for that exact purpose, so it wasn't the end of the world, but it was definitely worrisome. So I don't know if you saw what just happened then, but that was quite possibly one of the ballsiest things I've done in the walkthrough, because it just looks like I don't care, I don't give a shit, right? And they didn't give me the cards I wanted, but I dealt with it. And it went pretty well. I was happy with that. I'm glad that was in the run. Because I did this, killing them both, and it was unexceptional, and I wasn't pleased with it, so I restarted to try and get another fight against them, and that right there was just ballsy and fun. But speaking of ballsy and fun, yeah, you're not going to see that in this room, because this room has an incredible amount of enemies, and I have like 12 bullets, so I have to run past them, and that broke my heart, because that room right there is really cool. But the only thing to note, guys, is if you run immediately, that first necromorph will always cut you off, wait for him to attack, shoot him to interrupt his attack, and then run past him and you'll be fine. And additionally, if you use this node room, when you come out of it, you're going to get attacked by a divider. So Robin Williams has a name, and it's Divider. And I'm not fighting him, but it's good to know that he's absolutely terrible at killing you, because he's almost as bad at the tripods when it comes to kiting him. He has to stop before he can attack, and then when he does attack, it's this kind of really slow clobber that he does. Like, look at that. The telegraphing on that compared to the running, jumping attacks is hilarious. So you're never in any real danger when this dude chases you, because he has to stop to swing, and anything that doesn't take momentum can be easily outran. And you might wonder why I went outside, because I heard the noise and I thought there was a necromorph sneaking up on me. And there was. It's just a necromorph that I can't really fight. And I would love to kill him, guys, but I have to shoot his parts and then kill the rest of his parts with the parts. And if it doesn't kill the part, I'm using more ammunition. And once again, I'm in a really tough bind at the moment. And my entire thought process here was that I have to fight the boss. And I was worried about the ammunition for the boss, which is a legit concern, and the final gauntlet's pretty rough as well. But the boss gives you ammo back when you kill those children. It's RNG, and there's times when they don't give you what you want, or it falls off the edge. And then there are times when, if you're not that accurate and you don't get good drops, you don't have enough ammo to actually finish the fight. But having enough ammo to finish the fight was the least of my concerns. I just didn't realise, because you have to use so many bullets in that section. You're looking at anywhere between 14 to 20 hits on Nicole to open up the marker, and then you shoot the marker a bunch of times, and then you have to shoot at least 10 to 15 of the pack. and then afterwards you have to repeat it, and you have to repeat that about 7 times. So just think how much ammunition that takes. That is an incredible amount of ammunition. And it can be done. It definitely can be done. I just don't want to do it. Because it's super miserable. But we have some stalkers now, and they are the darker version, so they are much stronger. But luckily enough for us, we have this dude, who's the hero of this video. He's the guy that's going to enable me to knock them over and show you the strategy that is one of the best ways to not spend too much ammo on this creature. So you knock them over. You can eventually kill them just by knocking them over with the body, but it takes about 40 minutes, so it's not advisable. But if you take a limb off, and then they poke their head out, and then you hit their head with the limb, this can lead to all kinds of fun scenarios where you win and they lose. And if done correctly, you can do a lot of damage here and end this fight quite decisively without using too much ammo. But when you do, you get immediately attacked by 2 black pukers, and these dudes are ninjas. They end up just cruising around a goddamn box like a Cenobite and just chilling out. It's really strange. You didn't even have to touch the box or solve it or anything, they just appeared. But there's one of them. Oh, they're not black either. Interesting. I thought that they were the tougher versions, but they're not. So that's good. As he walks towards me menacingly and he loses his head. And I think that's the end of the room. But this room makes weird noises, and I don't know why. Obviously there's a whole weird membrane system going on here. This crazy second skin. This, I don't even know what you would call it, this organ of growth. It's like the room has been treated as some kind of petri dish for necrotized flesh, right? The necromorphs are taking over, who even knows? But it's making noises like there's a cyst somewhere. And can you imagine doing that room as decisively as I did, and then bumping into a cyst that instantly kills you? I don't think there are a few things as annoying as that in this game. That would really suck. But it's just the room making noises. And I don't really get it, but once again, there's a lot of sound throwing in this game that I don't particularly understand. But make sure to grab as much ammo as you can, guys. The rather infamous set of fights coming up can all be skipped, and as much as, you know, skipping the fights has left a bit of a sour taste in my mouth, these next encounters coming up I've always skipped because they're not really fun to do, because their enemy balance in this room coming up is just dumb. It's one of those sections of the game where you wonder what they were thinking because there's way too much, and there are a few rooms in this game that have this kind of an army inside of them. And at least the one in the mining facility on the previous level made sense because it was a massive cavernous room, whereas this is just a tiny room and they keep coming and there's dozens of the bloody things. So I never really got that. But this is the laser room, which is the bane of a lot of people who have played hardcore mode, because if you make one mistake, the laser room will claim your soul and you'll forever resent it because it's kind of cheesy. And one thing I don't get about the laser room, right, it gives you enough time to run from this opening to the opening to your right. Yet, if you go the other way, you do not have enough time to hit the other opening. So, the distance from here to the next one must be shorter than the next one previous to this one. Because you can make this from here forward, from here to the left, you can't make it. And it doesn't look like it's that much further in the grand scheme of the game. Because I was trying to think of a way to do this because I was getting bullied a little bit here by just the spawns and having trouble managing them. And one of my ideas was to run against the grain, but believe me when I say, it just doesn't work. But it doesn't feel like that run just then is any longer than that other one. But I couldn't do it. And I couldn't figure out why I couldn't do it either. But once you come in here, the black slasher comes out of the vent, you then get attacked by these two guys, to which, look at my expert dodging. I'm a beast. I have no idea how that didn't hit me. I'm glad that I backed up because it makes it look more convincing that it didn't. Because that was close. That was one of those moments where it could have easily gone the other way. And I'm glad that it didn't. And then the next one is that stupid guy that comes out of the vent who's only half a body. Or maybe that was him I just killed. Because I was having problems with that particular guy because I couldn't get the laser to finish him off for me. And now we have the children again. which are a really strange enemy. Now, if you throw a chair at a baby's face, I like to think the baby's not going to start attacking you. I just think that's how science works, and perhaps necromorphs are a little bit different. But it's just one of those strange moments, isn't it, where if throwing one thing at that enemy stopped it, they'd feel immeasurably better, in my opinion. And right here, these are not difficult enemies to kill, but I skipped them just because of how fast they are, and because I wanted to try and reserve my ammunition. And I like killing those enemies too, which is a bit of a shame. But the good news is, when we get to the end of this corridor, there's going to be 2 more of them, and I'm going to kill those because I now have a couple of spikes that are going to let me do it, right? Oh no, I'm just going to shoot him. So the Berserker Slash right there that he was doing, quite a unique animation, that one. I don't really know what governs it either. It seems to be one of those things at a certain proximity. Maybe it's a certain necromorph archetype that can do it. But he starts doing his little spinny thing as we crush his face in the pathway, which looks kind of cool, kind of miserable for him, like. And then you can hear the music because of those 2 dudes beneath me that I skipped. So I immediately turn around just in case, because I was wondering whether or not something had snuck up on me, and it's just the people below. And we do have a slasher limb there, so we can use this moving forward. And I believe there's a spawn when you get across here. There's no spawn? Interesting. Oh, there's a spawn going back. There you go. And right there, did you see that? That was the exact same thing that I mentioned on the elevator in like chapter 9. When you attack a necromorph as they're climbing, as long as you hit their limb, you have this tendency to instantly kill them. And I don't know why, but it's amazing. That was a single telekinesis limb shot, and he died. And we know they take 2 of those. So that's how powerful that technique is. So use it, guys. It's really useful. And then now we have the room of a bunch of dudes screaming and no real reason as to why, because all the enemies have moved on into the next room, and there's quite a few of them. So we're going to do the best strategy in the game, right? Run past everything like a pussy. Definitely a challenge run worthy. But the equipment at this moment in time is always a problem, because I only have the first suit. My inventory is always filled with garbage that I try to sell, and I always felt that this was a section where that shop should have been open to you. I understand that they tease you with a shop there because there's a really tough fight coming up, and it's kind of one of those, I bet you wish you had a shop right now, because everyone at this point wishes they had a shop. So it's definitely a mean choice for the devs to do. But for me in this run, the only reason I wanted a shop was so I could get rid of the shit I'm carrying. So I'm baiting all the necromorphs down this right hand side so that I can pick up this stasis module and freeze anybody that tries to get near this door. And it didn't really work, but nobody's close enough to be a threat that it kind of worked. Now there's going to be 2 enemies dropping here, but you have to freeze them just in the right time to get around them, and if you don't, you can get hit, which is really scary. And then in this room, it's the exact same thing that we did before. You're going to get to this doorway, someone's going to be behind you because they're always behind you, and I'm just committing to not looking at them so they can't move really quick. And then once you're in here, enemies can get in this room, but you are given a checkpoint at the bottom, so you can pick up ammo here and feel safe. I got myself into a bit of a bother though, because an enemy drops on me, and the checkpoint is when he drops on me. So I died to the brute, and if you watch when the door opens just then, did you notice how there was a dude behind me and it was a different necromorph? That was a separate piece of footage. And I have to warn you too, the brute that killed me, he killed me without a leg. So I knocked his leg off, I was throwing the stuff back at him, and for some reason he charged me and just killed me on the ground. And I didn't even know when you knocked a leg off them that they could do that move. And I'm not entirely certain if it's because he's the black version or what, the elite version. But if he starts moving towards you, just don't even bother. Don't mess with him at all, because it means he's going to get all Rolf Harris on your ass, and nobody wants that. But look, see this? This is it. That just then, when you see him walking forward, either shoot him in his weak point or back away, because if he continues to start storming forward like an angry teenager, he's really dangerous. And I got the surprise of my life when he clobbered me, because I didn't know he could do it. Because I've never killed the brutes like this. I just usually shoot them. And when you play this game without the restrictions that I'm using, you never really feel like you run out of ammo. You've always got a really powerful gun. And if you fight this guy with a seeker rifle that's got upgrades on it, you kill him before he's even had a chance to recover from the stasis. And I was kind of stunned, actually. how much of the game you don't even have to face when you use the stuff the game gives you. And it's that interesting thing where the challenge run was really fun and really awesome and really different and unique, and it made me respect the game in a whole host of new ways, because once you get just the base upgrades and the few abilities that you can get and you pump some points into them, you are so strong, it's almost unfair for the enemy. It really is. And you never normally notice this because it's Dead Space, you know, it's a survival horror. You are effective, they're effective, you just get on with it. But coming to this and just understanding all the damage I could do with an unupgraded plasma cutter and kinesis and stasis, it's dumbfounding how gifted you are as a character in this game. And if you can inject a little skill into it, there's nothing you can't do. There truly isn't. It's the ultimate design, in my opinion, because at the end of the game, your character has got better, your guns have got better, but fundamentally, you as a player is the most important aspect, and you've improved the most. And that's what I think is great about this. Just the fact that our character hasn't improved in this run. It's us that's improved because we've had to, and the next section is probably not going to reflect that too much, because it's another section where standing and fighting when you don't have the best amount of ammunition and you're kind of intimidated about the concept of not being able to beat the final boss is going to conflict in my willingness to kill things. But climb into the machine and stick a needle in your eye.